The brand new Lucid Air Pure, we've already introduced to you in a classic review with an extensive driving report. If you missed the video, feel free to check it out in the video description. I've included a link for you there. Building on that, today we're hitting the Autobahn to see what it consumes at 100, 120, 140, and 160 kilometers per hour average speed. How quickly can it build up its battery pack? And what kind of efficiency can we expect across these different speeds? Let's find out. With 88 kilowatt hours, charging from 10 to 80%. What's its travel comfort like? How does its Dream Drive assistance system actually operate in practice? And what additional features does it bring to the table for those long-distance journeys? For all of this to be possible, we need your ticket for this video. And that would be your support in our community. We'd be absolutely thrilled if you could back us up by subscribing to our channel. It's completely free for you, but it's a huge help in growing the community and the channel. And now let's get started with the consumption test and charging check of the Lucid Air Pure. We've started our journey with the Lucid Air Pure, which stands for rear-wheel drive, equipped with a rear motor delivering 325 kilowatts, or in the old terms, 441 horsepower to the rear axle. It's supposed to accelerate the Lucid Air from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.7 seconds, and at 200 kilometers per hour, that's where it ends. We have an 88 kilowatt-hour usable energy battery pack on board, featuring a 650 volt system, allowing us to charge at up to 210 kilowatts. And of course, we want to find out later in the charging test how fast it charges from 10 to 80%. As part of the baseline, we currently have an outside temperature of around 22 degrees. The thermometer keeps drifting a bit back and forth. I kind of feel like it's following the sun a little. Now it's showing 21 again. And what kind of tire shape are we currently running with on board here, Stefan, right now?
We've got 20-inch wheels with two 45/40 tires mounted.
Yeah, summer tires, right? Yeah, Michelin Pilot Sports, you know, like those.
Even the EV.
EV referring to a tire specifically engineered for electric vehicles to maximize efficiency and optimize overall performance even further. Yes, the Lucid Air's drag coefficient is 0.21, making it one of the very best in its class. The best value for series-produced vehicles probably still remains with the Mercedes EQS, boasting a drag coefficient of 0.20, which truly positions it as an efficiency powerhouse if you consider it carefully. And that's exactly what we'll explore with you in this video. We'll also drive for about 7 kilometers through Neubrandenburg. That means we'll measure the consumption while driving through the city, and then another 7 kilometers to the highway, covering a bit more overland terrain. The only downside, which the Lucid Air shares with many other electric vehicles from America, we also experienced with the Cadillac Lyriq, is that it displays, for instance, after the last charge, 78 kilometers and 16 kilowatt hours consumed with an efficiency of 4.96 kilometers per kilowatt hour. That means we, of course, also need to take that step and then convert it to 100 kilometers accordingly, but Stefan has become quite the experienced calculator operator by now. We've arrived in Neubrandenburg. You can see it on the town entrance sign, and we'll reset Drive A and Drive B here to get ready for the next approximate distance ahead. 7 kilometers to determine the consumption of the Lucid Air Pure. We've now successfully obtained the first consumption measurement, marking our initial data point. We've passed through Neubrandenburg. You can see it here, 7 kilometers, and we're getting 10 kilometers per kilowatt hour. It's very simple to calculate. 100 divided by 10 equals 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. So we've essentially used 10 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven here through Neubrandenburg. Reset the onboard computer because we also want to determine now what the Lucid Air consumes over rural roads. We're just before reaching the highway, having now covered a total distance of 7.2 kilometers so far, and we're currently displaying a consumption of a bit mixed now here. Let's just go with 8.2 kilometers per kilowatt hour. And we're looking at a consumption of, Stefan, 5.19, good. That's already efficient. I mean, sure, there's a lot of 80 here and a few small villages along the way. Perhaps this isn't the most typical rural route around here, and 7 kilometers is definitely not a benchmark, just a rough idea to go by. But I think if you just say, even with a lot of 100 portion, that's likely the case with 20 degrees, around 15 kilowatt hours output.
Yeah, I think that's pretty realistic. I'd estimate it's around 14 to 16, personally.
Exactly, and that's also crucial for the Lucid Air. You've really got to factor in the weight. I'd estimate it's around 2.3 tons, give or take. That's quite a lot for a sedan measuring 4.97 meters in length. We've now arrived on the A20 highway, our standard testing route, where we've already tested the majority of the vehicles as well. We've locked the drive assist at a steady 100 kilometers per hour and are currently in the process of resetting the onboard computer here. And let's see, at an average speed of 100 kilometers per hour, how the consumption of the Lucid Air now develops under these conditions. Wickle Stefan, got any tip or something? No tip.
So I think we'll definitely stay well under 20. At least that's what I believe.
I really hope so too, because somewhere I think a good drag coefficient and good aerodynamics should eventually translate into fewer kilowatt hours. On board is the Lucid Air, featuring the Pure variant, which is available starting at a price of 85,000 euros. In the base model, I believe you always get the adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist and steering assist. Зрение, и вы можете обновить все снова с помощью версии Pro. I don't actually know right now, do we have the Pro version or not? In any case, the Pro version also includes a lane change assistant.
Ja.
However, we didn't really notice it much during our first test drive on the highway.
Nee.
We can check if it's here somewhere, but right now it's not doing a lane change. Let's go ahead and assume we probably don't have the Pro version. In any case, it maintains the center of the lane on the highway, unlike on country roads because we don't have such steep curves, and I find it does so very, very precisely. That's definitely a significant improvement already. What we seem to be lacking is a capacitive monitoring system for driver vigilance. It's not enough to just have 3 fingers on the steering wheel. You need to make a slight jerky motion so the system realizes the driver is still paying attention. I find it really annoying. I'd much rather have a capacitive solution where I could just rest 3 or 4 fingers on the steering wheel and the system would automatically keep the car perfectly centered in the lane. He also tends to lean a bit to the left or drift slightly over to the right at times. South? I haven't fully warmed up to him just yet.
No, but it basically works. For those finer details, though, you just need to drive more miles to really become accustomed to it.
Yes, and I'm of course a spoiled only child because you obviously have one of the best systems in the EQS. It's really only topped by BMW and its Autobahn Assistant, where you can, even if you're paying attention to the road ahead, take your hands off the steering wheel and initiate a lane change by looking into the side mirrors. Similar to the Blue Drive at Ford, I believe, though it doesn't provide the lane change functionality. That, of course, is another highlight. The travel assist systems here from the VW group work flawlessly and are inherently predictive in their overall functionality. We're not even adaptive here. That means when there's a change in speed, we practically have to confirm it by pressing buttons. And only then does the speed adjust, in principle. So there's definitely a lot to do in the software of the Lucid Air because it feels like it has 20 cameras here, if not even more, and that's just the beginning of the challenges. Plus LiDAR, plus radar, plus ultrasonic, so just in terms of the basics, it's got everything, hardware-wise, no doubt.
Ja.
And now the software likely requires additional optimization for Europe, ensuring it performs even more effectively in driving conditions here. Could be that in America, because the roads are all different there, it also works better. But we're living in Europe, it's just like Tesla. Why do we even need such a full-service Sky?
Ja,
Exactly the same issue as with Tesla, which we've been essentially saying for years.
Or the Cadillac Lyric, exactly.
It's fantastic that you all have that in America, and from what I've seen, it seems to work well. But if there's no approval for Europe, then it's just tough for us over here in Europe.
Because for me, the price range starts at 85,000, and the fully equipped Pure model comes in at around 100,000 euros. So I think it's about good taste.
Absolutely.
And honestly, so I personally, privately, I wouldn't want to give that up either. Because we're often on long stretches of road. Even you, who was never really a fan of assisted driving, have become a total fan.
Especially long trips, yeah.
You're using it a lot these days, have really gotten used to it, and clearly recognize all the benefits it brings. You just arrive a lot more relaxed. I can sit comfortably in the back, focus on my laptop, enjoy the scenic views, write a few emails, and get tasks done without feeling any pressure. That's why we always aim for quick charging. Everything's handled right on board.
richtig, genau.
Either I'll drive you and you can do your thing, or you drive me and I can do my thing. It's always pretty handy when you're on a business trip and you're traveling together with someone rather than wandering around all by yourself in unfamiliar places. Yeah, I'm curious how you'll evaluate these assistants from our presentation today. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Is it just a side note to you? I'm always driving alone. Whether it works or not, I don't use it anyway. Or are you more the type who goes for drive assist or travel assist and says, if I'm spending that much money, I want a perfectly functioning system? Heute, we've just recorded our first consumption value after 20.9 kilometers, Stefan. We drove a total of 21 kilometers, achieving an efficiency of 8.36 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Stefan, let's go ahead and convert that dot. Component placement, which gives us a calculated consumption rate of 11.99 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers driven.
That's already well below 20.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the best values. We tested a Polestar 2 near Hamburg on the A1, and it still beats this by a solid margin. You should check the table right away.
And the Astra, I think, was also somehow around 11, something like that.
Exactly. The Astra Electric, it was also incredibly super efficient. So that's truly a top-tier value right there. And please don't forget one thing, we're talking about a sedan here, 4.97 meters long, easily over 2.3 tons empty weight with the two of us, Brum in there, plus all the luggage and extra gear, we're easily hitting around 2.5 tons here. Yeah, I think he's really holding his own there, definitely making a strong impression. That's an absolute record. Yes, we're resetting the onboard computer now since we've locked the drive assist at 120 kilometers per hour here. And naturally, we're curious to see if it can maintain that low consumption and high efficiency, even at an average speed of 120 kilometers per hour throughout the drive. For a good electric car in 2025, I believe solid route planning is essential, and ideally, it should also incorporate smart charging planning as well. If you're able to control the entire system by voice, you're pretty much on the safe side already.
Ja, definitiv.
All of this, Lucid naturally wants to show us that it can do it, and we're going to test it out together with you by simply saying, hey Lucid, let's see how it works. Please drive us to Munich, to Viktualienmarkt 1.
Please set the navigation to Viktualienmarkt 1 in Munich.
It's super quick, super smooth, and as you can see, it's really nice that the navigation can be shifted to the lower screen. You can swipe left and right, slide up and down, and it automatically adapts seamlessly. For you, the corresponding charging planning, that's absolutely crucial, especially in this vehicle segment starting at 85,000 euros, ensuring it handles not just route planning, but also charging planning seamlessly. And that's of course a fantastic feature. The battery itself comes with preconditioning capabilities. If you let the Lucid handle the charging process, it ensures the battery is perfectly preconditioned all year round, whether through heating or cooling. To bring it to the ideal comfort temperature, and we'll of course test this out together with you later, when we aim to recharge the battery from 10 up to 80% in one smooth, continuous charging session. Yeah. There's really not much to fuss about, right? Perhaps we could take a closer look and further refine some of those adjustment options a bit more. We're always a bit stubborn when it comes to that, but here you can actually configure quite a bit of the navigation data, both offline and online, and effortlessly customize it to perfectly suit your specific preferences and requirements. And yes, I think the Lucid offers some really cool options for you, providing flexibility and features that truly enhance the overall experience, whether you're navigating or customizing settings. You always have the option to manually search for a charging station nearby along your route or at your destination, ensuring you stay in complete control of your charging needs at all times. And you also have the ability to apply relevant filters here, such as availability, which is very important, or the specific charging speed you're aiming to achieve along your route. The car can charge up to 210 kilowatts at peak. Do you want all charging points or just those in the Lucid network? And then you can, for example, specify here if you have a great rate at Ionity, EMWB, or Allego, and then simply apply the appropriate filtering and selection to match your specific preferences and unique charging requirements. The only downside is, I don't feel like you can apply this for the entire route, as it always selects the best matching option automatically, without allowing you to fully customize it for the whole journey. I would have also wished that you could maybe select your own charging provider as well. And yeah, otherwise it can, I think, sometimes happen like we had when we drove a longer distance, Stefan, where it didn't choose our usual charging partner, but a completely different one instead.
Yeah. But also pretty off, it was okay, just not what we expected.
So yeah, there's always something to change. Unfortunately, I haven't found a function yet. Feel free to correct me if you know better than I do, but for example, you could say I only want to arrive at the charging station with 5 or 10%, because that's already pretty generous. Then arriving with a higher battery level, and what you can't set is at the destination, since some people can charge there as well, then it's enough to theoretically arrive with 5%. And the same goes for the charging station where he did our charging planning back then. We probably arrived at the charging station with about 30% or so. Back then it didn't reach 210 kilowatts either. And so it's perhaps a bit of wasted time when you really think about it. Exactly. We could have theoretically kept driving to the next Ionity if we had wanted to, toward Oberkrummer, you know, about 80 kilometers. Then it would have easily been manageable. And we could have essentially charged even faster with that high peak rate. There are a few small nuances there, but all of that can be adjusted and fine-tuned gradually through software updates over time. And here we go again, we've just recorded a brand new consumption value, and this time it's after covering a total driving distance of exactly 20.8 kilometers. We have recorded a consumption of 5.24 kilometers per kilowatt hour, and Stefan is currently working on calculating the consumption.
19.08. So we're still staying below 20. That's nice, I like that.
And let's not overlook the fact that we're consistently driving at an average speed of 120 kilometers per hour. So it's not 120 on cruise control, which some misunderstand and then say, but my car only uses. It's actually driven continuously at that speed without interruption on average. And I have to say, with such a large sedan and its weight, achieving under 20 kilowatt hours at an average speed of 120 kilometers per hour, that's a figure that we've managed to reach. I believe we haven't seen that too often yet, but today, we also want to try to break records in general by now setting a fixed speed of 140 kilometers per hour, pushing the limits even further. You see, the wind turbines are spinning too. There are indeed a few of those. People who say, well, you always have wind, right? We're not driving without wind, and we're not driving on topographically balanced terrain either. We're also not driving back and forth. We're not conducting a test, but a consumption watch, because we simply want to see, as average consumers that we are, how much a Lucid actually consumes. All these air quote padded tests, or those official WLTP figures.
Without tests, of course, where door frames are taped up and similar kinds of adjustments are implemented.
So this doesn't help us, and sure, other colleagues do great tests in and out. They weren't meant either, but generally speaking, I think it's just good to get in the car, drive 20 kilometers, check the onboard computer, and have a rough estimate. That's precisely what our consumption runs and charging checks are intended for. What can never be missing on a long drive, of course, is some seriously great, awesome tunes, right?
Yeah, a really nice and solid sound system, you know?
Of course, we need that for some awesome tunes, right? With Lucid, there are two different options available, a smaller one and a larger one. Once again, we're completely in the dark about what's actually installed in our car, since Lucid hasn't provided us with any details or specifics on the options included in this particular model. But it definitely sounds hot, right?
Oh yeah, you've got a really active back now, and the room acoustics are sounding absolutely fantastic and clear, no complaints there at all.
And that's what makes it so enjoyable, maybe with the Lucid Air, with its impressive efficiency to drive a long distance effortlessly. If it can manage to recharge quickly now, that would be ideal.
Now we've already managed to reach 10.
Exactly. We've obtained the next consumption value, and to be more precise, we've traveled a distance of 20.5 kilometers with an energy consumption rate of 4.94 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Stefan, figure that out.
So that's really quite impressive. 20.24.
Insane. So I think the Lucid Air is like, hands down, one of the most efficient electric cars we've ever driven, particularly when it comes to energy consumption and all that kind of technical stuff.
Especially now, even this slight incline just from 120 to 140, it's really something you can feel. It's genuinely impressive. You've really got to admit it now, right?
But that's where the aerodynamics really come into play. That's also where their technological edge becomes evident, with them producing their own electric motors and many components themselves. Many things in-house, and as a result, they likely save a bit of weight, thereby reducing the overall installed mass, so to speak, in the process. And that everything, combined with excellent aerodynamics and a low drag coefficient, ultimately plays a crucial role in making it possible to achieve such impressive performance values with such a large vehicle. Heavy car, and so yes, if you extrapolate it further, well, it clearly becomes evident that this is indeed, definitely even with an 88 kilowatt-hour battery, it meets its WLTP values.
Yeah.
I honestly can't even remember when we've ever come close to hitting the WLTP values. It was the Polestar 2, it was the Opel Astra
Yeah.
Electric, but then
Yeah.
the options really start to thin out.
Yeah.
And maybe we also had perfect conditions, maybe we also had the perfect highway, the perfect moment. That's how it is with these consumption tests, which only go in one direction over a set distance. But that's definitely really impressive, Lucian. And I'm genuinely curious because a lot of people who buy a car in this vehicle size, including us, don't drive at just 120 or 140, but prefer 160, 180, and might even reach, like in Mecklenburg, an average speed of 160 kilometers per hour. I'm really curious to see what he's about to pull off now. We couldn't lock the speed at 160 kilometers per hour, unfortunately, because the drive assist only goes up to 100 kilometers per hour. 150 kilometers per hour works, and now we'll reset the onboard computer. I'm, of course, trying with my extremely cautious foot on the accelerator to reach 160 kilometers per hour here. I'll try it again using the adaptive period. Cruise control, which you can switch by long pressing, but unfortunately that doesn't work either. A good electric car for long distances naturally also needs a good chassis. What's meant by that is also an appropriate travel comfort. Now, you're probably wondering, how can you measure that? Every vehicle is distinct, and the impression of each driver or passenger is, of course, inherently subjective. And to bypass all of that, to ensure maximum transparency for you, and to deliver precise, accurate, and highly reliable values, we've had a unique and innovative medium on board for the past 5 years, known as Stefan's popometer. This popometer has its swings, and naturally, we're quite eager to find out how it's going to swing today during our test drive of the Lucid Air Pure, so let's dive in.
Yes, and as always, I start with the seats. I'm sitting incredibly comfortably overall. I've got excellent lateral support, and the thigh support is just right. And what I'm really excited about today personally is that I pretty much have all the functions that the driver's seat has. So I've got it all covered from massage to heating, ventilation. I can control everything with ease. Operating electrically in all directions, I can enlarge the seat, or in my case, first reduce it because of my long legs. But otherwise, it's really nice and super comfortable. As for the driving dynamics, I'm quite fond of it as well, honestly.
Stefan, we need to stop for a moment. There's a speed limit ahead. We have to check the consumption at 12.6 or 12.7 kilometers. That's 3.4 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Stefan will now calculate and figure out the exact details for us, because unfortunately there's a daytime construction site on our test route, and as a result we naturally have to stick to the speed limit accordingly, just like everyone else here today driving through. Yes, now it's at 29.41 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven. That's, I think, still a pretty solid figure, especially considering the size and type of this vehicle. It's definitely not bad at all, quite impressive actually. Wait! Stefan puts an asterisk in the table here because now we're going to show you all the tested vehicles from the consumption chart, so you can also get a good comparison with the Mercedes EQS to the BMW i7, the Tesla Model S, and all the other tested vehicles. There are quite a lot over 5 years after all. Let's move on to the chassis with Stefan's popometer. That's where we left off before I unfortunately had to interrupt.
Yes, I really like the suspension. It sits firm and tight on the road. It definitely gives off a sporty vibe, shows now. Smooth suspension. Brake time, 1.66 seconds. Handles bumps even at higher speeds. Handles them with ease. Cobblestones near caves felt just as smooth. Didn't cause any issues with his back at all. Overall, it was truly fantastic and smooth.
What's also really great is that you can precondition the battery well ahead of time. We'll go ahead and start that now because we also want to do the charging check with you later, going from 10 up to 80%. I have to say, I'm genuinely impressed with the chassis here. It's already giving me an excellent and really positive first impression. We have an adaptive suspension system here, meaning the dampers can be adjusted in terms of their stiffness or softness accordingly. The car does this completely automatically. I haven't found any manual adjustment options here either, except for the 3 driving modes you can see. Smooth, where we've been driving the whole time with the consumption displayed. Then there's Swift, or of course Sprint, if you want to draw the full 325 kilowatts of maximum available power out of the battery pack. And then of course an A6 all-road disappears really quickly in the rearview mirror, Stefan, because the loose hilt simply delivers an immense amount of power. The suspension as a whole, I think, is perfectly tuned. Honestly, it's rare to experience such a smooth and comfortable setup without air suspension, yet it still handles corners with a sporty and dynamic edge effortlessly on the Autobahn, pushing to its limits with a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour, or as shown here on the speedometer, reaching 204 kilometers per hour. And what the Lustig also offers, when you come to a stop in such a car, we can test it out right now, it has incredibly effective brakes, and that's crucial. So when you regularly drive at high speeds, you can effectively decelerate the car by utilizing recuperation and braking systems. And Lucid has also done a perfect job with that. You saw that in our driving report, the review, where it truly showcases its capabilities by delivering consistently impressive and reliable performance metrics. Because it's not just crucial to be able to accelerate well, but also to be able to bring such a mass to a stop quickly when a danger arises. Our draggy is started. We're aiming to measure the elasticity in the sprint, fully accelerate at 80, and check if we can actually get some useful data from it. We're at 140, 150, 160 kilometers per hour, 170 kilometers per hour, approaching 180, battery at 27%. That's not the ideal voltage of the 650 volt onboard system. Approaching 200, and then onto the top speed of 204 kilometers per hour. Kalmar, I'm curious to see what our draggy for values here with the Lucid Air Pure rear-wheel drive. Stefan, read them out.
So here we have 80, 120, 3.51, 100, 160, 7.59, 100 to 180, 11.67, and from 100 to 180, 200 நொடிகள் 17.46.
Yes, of course, with the 325 kilowatts of the rear motor, you can't expect any record-breaking performance. There is also a version as the Touring with all-wheel drive and over 600 horsepower, where it already becomes noticeably quicker. Going up to the Grand Touring with over 800 horsepower, and at the end of the year, the Sapphire comes as an absolute top-tier variant that really aims to put the Taycan Turbo S or even the Taycan Turbo GT with 1,251 horsepower in their place. Whether Lucid succeeds remains to be seen. It's supposed to accelerate from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds and of course offer the corresponding responsiveness. Of course, we're really hoping that we'll get the chance to drive in a Sapphire at some point soon. It features a ceramic brake system and the chassis is finely tuned. So this is definitely one of those super hypercars, which I believe starts at 250,000 euros going full throttle.
Ja.
But that's what the competition costs too, like a Turbo GT or other vehicles. And I think it's really great that Lucid puts everything into it, unlike Tesla with the Plaid model. You can purchase it without the high-performance brakes or select it with the tires, the rims, and all those extras. And there you have an RSP, even if it really puts a dent in the wallet, but then everything is included. Or, well, I'm genuinely super curious to see how it will stack up against the Tesla Model S Plaid and the Taycan Turbo GT, whether it's equipped with the Weissach package or not. We've arrived at the Ionity charging station here at the Rostov-Demina land, and now we're going to charge the Lucid Air up to 80% together with you. We're charging. First, let's check how we arrived. According to the car, we got here with 9% battery remaining. Now we're going to plug it in and see how quickly it can recharge from 9% up to 80%. Let's find out together. The battery is preconditioned, so it should actually hit 210 kilowatts at peak, I think. And we're staying optimistic that we'll hopefully manage to achieve a solid and reliable overall performance here. 9% as the bar clearly indicates, and the charging peak is building up quite smoothly right from the start. It's immediately climbing here to 90 kilowatts, then to 130 kilowatts, and naturally it's now steadily progressing its way toward reaching the maximum peak of 210 kilowatts. That was really noticeable here. Whoa! But once again, it exceeds expectations with 221 kilowatts. Well, I can definitely live with that. 222 kilowatts. It's great about the electric approach that we can always prepare the cars perfectly through our high speeds with a lot of recuperation, also thermally, ensuring optimal performance. You can clearly observe it. The fan is also operating at full speed here. 223 kilowatts at an 11% state of charge. And we're already over by a minute, 2 kilowatt hours recharged. Yes, surely you're always wondering, Ollie, what do you charge your electric car with? I hear that question constantly from you guys, whether it's through Facebook, Instagram, or even in the comments section on YouTube. And we've been partnering with In Charge here as channel partners for 5 years now, starting back in May, so it's just a few weeks from now. Thank you so much for your continued support, whether you're using a web browser or an app. Yes, collecting free kilometers through online shopping by rating charging stations, which of course is also valuable to the community through your reviews, and of course having the chance to take on In Charge's challenges, thereby earning free kilometers once again. So we've already managed to charge significantly over 50,000 kilometers, completely free of cost. I'll gladly add the link for In Charge in the video description for you. Yes, 224 kilowatts, it's impressive. He doesn't hold back here. You can also clearly see the 620 volts here. I think it might even show 650 volts perhaps. 16% after 2 minutes, and we've already topped up a solid 6 kilowatt hours. And apart from that, the Luce has really done a good job of clearing out those annoying dead flies here. Of course, given its sleek aerodynamic design, it's no surprise that it ended up nicely sprinkled from the front all the way over the windshield. The loading point is also the perfect opportunity to once again showcase the Lucid Air here in its pure trim version. Beautiful rear end, but unfortunately it's not a hatchback, it's a traditional sedan. That said, it still offers an impressive 627 liters of trunk space, delivering a generous and highly practical cargo capacity overall. It opens electronically, the seats can be folded down, there's a pass-through for longer objects, and a handy compartment underneath as well. Hopefully, you've already seen everything in the review. Otherwise, it's 4.97 meters long, featuring an 88 kilowatt-hour net usable battery pack with advanced 650-volt technology on board. It delivered an impressive 225 kilowatts instead of the factory-reported 210 kilowatts, and it's been aerodynamically optimized to perfection, not just with the appropriately designed wheels, but also with refined details, which enhance the aerodynamics, but also through air curtains that direct and streamline the airflow around the wheel arches, and also air curtains that ensure the airflow is perfectly and smoothly guided around the car. So it cuts through the wind as perfectly as possible. And from the front as well, I think the Lucid Air has a really nice, wide and deep look. It looks performance-oriented, and it really is. Especially when you opt for the Sapphire model later this year, featuring an extraordinary 1,251 horsepower under the hood. Even at the charging station, it's quite impressive. Let's take another look. We're currently at 180 kilowatts charging power, 627 volts, 5 minutes in, 16 kilowatt hours added, and the battery pack is already up to 27% again. So as you can see with the Lucid Air, we'll have to wait and see how long it takes to reach 80 if it drops off now, but you'll likely be able to tackle long distances more than adequately, right?
I agree, yes.
50% after 16 minutes. We've topped up a good 37 kilowatt hours. It's currently charging at 108 kilowatts, though it did briefly dip below 100 kilowatts at 33%. I think it probably wanted to cool down a bit and to properly regulate the battery temperature, it most likely. Reduce the charging peak slightly for just a brief moment there to ensure optimal performance. Yes, the hope is that we will hopefully get to 80% in under 30 minutes maybe. Curious if he can do it. Now it's back up to 111 kilowatts. So he's probably also managing it a bit through the car's battery management system, depending on how much power he's willing to allocate to the battery to ensure its overall health remains stable and optimal over the long term. From 9% to 79% in 32 minutes. He has now added 64 kilowatt hours, is still charging at 64 kilowatts, and unfortunately, we have to admit that the Pure, the base model, just isn't exactly a charging champion. Is it really now? Nope.
Ah, too bad, really.
Despite 650 volts, it even shows 671 volts here. at 94, 95 amps, yeah, others can go quicker, you know? And I'd say the people who might get a Taycan or an EQS, they have a 108 kilowatt hour net battery, right? Half an hour charge, 1080, right? So, or rather, with the new Taycan, it charges a 100 kilowatt hour battery in 16-17 minutes from 10 to 80. And of course, that naturally has its challenges. Sure, the larger models might be able to charge a bit faster, but that doesn't really help us here. From 9 to 80% in 33 minutes, we've just added nearly 65 kilowatt hours. Yeah, so Lucid, you might need to step up your game in this league a bit so you don't get left behind by the competition. And with that, let's head into the conclusion. The Lucid Air in the Pure variant, essentially the entry-level model starting at 85,000 euros with the rear-wheel drive option. Let's take a closer look at it. Yes, in the review with the driving report, we noted that it delivers decent power, more than sufficient power. With its 22 kilowatt charger, it can be recharged quite swiftly at home, taking roughly around 4 hours in total to complete. And so, naturally, daily life is also excellent if you're not constantly on long-distance trips. This can succeed. Contributing to this, of course, is an excellent vehicle with a great chassis, a fantastic interior, a nice mix of materials, and all the essential features, including a cool sound system here in the infotainment area. Fuel consumption, I have to say, is outstanding.
Yes, truly so.
You've seen it in the tables. There really aren't many vehicles out there that can even come close to matching the Lucid's truly impressive performance level. Kilo, of course, is something you have to be able to manage effectively. Even if there might occasionally be attractive leasing offers available, it's still likely in a range of relatively low unit numbers overall, and where I was honestly disappointed, because I think it's also part of good etiquette in that price range, would be a higher charging performance for me.
Yeah, it was a bit of a letdown, I'd have to say, especially after all that consumption. And overall, we're both really excited about the car. That's just a given. For now. But, you know, the charging process, I actually thought it would be a bit cooler than this. Especially with the 600-volt technology, I expected it to maybe hold the peak a bit longer. Yeah, too bad. But it's definitely something that can be done.
I would have liked it to be under 25 minutes. That would be my minimum goal. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments on how you see it. And what also doesn't work, Lucid, I don't know if it's because of certain approvals or maybe something with the software, I'm not sure, but it's this Dream Drive feature here that's the issue. With Mercedes, BMW, or the VW Group brands like Audi, Skoda, and Cupra, you're simply used to a much higher standard of performance.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, it's kind of neither here nor there. It just doesn't fully hit the mark at all. Everything is already there. It's just missing, I think, the right kind of update to steer it in the right direction here with us.
Yes, that's what we wish for, of course, for Lucid as well. And we're naturally curious, how do you view the Lucid Air in terms of... Share your thoughts in the comments, your takeaway, and whether it could be your next electric car. We're really eager to hear your opinions and experiences. There are several Lucid stores, I believe, in Hamburg, in Munich, in Düsseldorf, and I think they've also opened one in Frankfurt. Perhaps I missed one. Feel free to share if you know another location where you can test drive cars and have a personal contact, where there's a design studio to customize and personalize it a bit for your needs. Personalize it. Feel free to explore the configurator online, and perhaps that could very well end up being your next electric car. And with that, we've officially reached the conclusion of the second video featuring the Lucid Air in its Pure variant. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Double check to make sure you're part of the e-bike invaders crew. If not, we would of course be delighted if you supported us with your subscription, and we'll see each other again in future electric car videos. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, see you soon. Yours, Ollie. What's cool about Lucid is their focus on wind tunnel testing and aerodynamics, like these air curtains. Then here with the air curtains, which are supposed to guide the air around the side mirrors. And look, even the side mirrors themselves, this is genuinely a truly remarkable design feature. And then again, aerodynamically optimized here too, so you've really got to hand it to Lucid for crafting and delivering such a sleek, stylish, and innovative electric sedan on the road, which truly stands out as a class leader.